The storm wasn't made of wind or rain. It was made of nothing, a crawling void that consumed matter, energy, and thought itself. The Zathor called it the Unmaking, and it had been devouring their world for 3 cycles. Commander Zethrak stood at the edge of the last sanctuary, his forearms trembling as he watched the blackness advance. Behind him, the remnants of his people huddled in crystalline shelters that grew dimmer with each passing moment. They had already lost everything, their cities, their technology, their future, and worst of all, they had lost the cubs. The Zathor were an ancient species, proud and strong, but their young were vulnerable. When the Unmaking first struck, they had evacuated the nursery domes, but the void moved faster than anyone predicted. 17 cubs, including Tavi, the first daughter of the matriarch herself, had been swallowed by the darkness. The scream still echoed in Zethrak's mind. "Commander," his second, Officer Kren, approached with defeat in his voice. "The shields are failing. We have perhaps one more rotation before—" A flash of light split the void. Not the cold absence that characterized the Unmaking, but something warm, golden, impossible. Every Zathor turned to stare as a figure emerged from the storm itself, walking through the nothing as if it were merely fog. She was small, barely reaching Zethrak's mid-torso, covered in strange fabric that rippled with an energy signature he'd never encountered. Her skin was pale, her hair dark and wild from the storm winds that didn't exist. But that wasn't what made the entire compound fall silent. In her arms, wrapped in what appeared to be her own jacket, was Tavi. The cub's orange fur was matted and dirty, but her eyes were open, alert, alive. The human, for that was what the universal translator identified her as, walked with steady purpose toward the sanctuary shields. Behind her, the Unmaking roiled and twisted, reaching for her with tendrils of oblivion, but they couldn't touch her. They recoiled as if burned. "Impossible," Zethrak breathed. "Nothing survives in the void. Nothing returns from the Unmaking." The human reached the shield perimeter. Up close, Zethrak could see she was exhausted, her face drawn with effort that went beyond physical strain. She was holding something, not just the cub, but something else. The air around her shimmered with a frequency that made his sensors scream in confusion. "Are you Zathor?" she asked in halting, accented Standard Galactic. Her voice was hoarse, as if she'd been shouting for days. "I am Commander Zethrak. What are you?" "My name is Lena." She shifted Tavi in her arms, and the cub chittered softly, trustingly. "I'm human. From Earth. We got your distress beacon 3 cycles ago." She paused, swaying slightly. "I'm sorry we took so long." "You came through the Unmaking," Kren said, his voice filled with awe and terror. "How are you alive?" "How is she?" He gestured at Tavi. "Alive." Lena smiled, though it was strained. "Because I'm stubborn. And because humans learned a long time ago that sometimes the only way to beat nothing is to be something so hard that reality itself has to listen." She stepped through the shield as if it wasn't there. Later, Zethrak would learn that it technically wasn't. Not to her. She operated on frequencies that existed outside conventional space-time, a natural quirk of human consciousness that their species had only recently learned to harness. Tavi was immediately swarmed by medics, but the cub kept looking back at Lena, chirping plaintively. "The others," Zethrak demanded, hope and fear warring in his chest. "The other cubs. Can you? Lena's expression hardened with determination. "I found them. All 16. They're in a stable pocket about 4 clicks into the void." She pulled out a device from her belt, crude by Zathor standards, but pulsing with that same reality-bending energy. "I can hold the pocket for another 6 hours, maybe 7. But I can't carry them all at once, and I can't maintain the pathway and the pocket simultaneously." "Then it's impossible," Kren said, despair creeping back into his voice. "We have no technology that can survive the Unmaking, no way to reach them." "No," Lena interrupted. "You don't. But I didn't come alone." She raised her wrist communicator. Lena to defiance. "I've got the beacon planted. Initiate protocol lighthouse." The sky above them tore open, not with the hungry nothing of the Unmaking, but with brilliant, defiant light. A human vessel, small, battered, held together with what looked like hope and spare parts, descended through the void. It shouldn't have been possible. The Unmaking should have dissolved it instantly, but the ship was wrapped in the same golden energy that surrounded Lena. And as it landed, Zethrak understood something that would later be taught in every academy, written in every history text, whispered in every nursery where cubs learned what hope meant. Humans didn't just survive the impossible. They made the impossible bow. Over the next 5 hours, Lena made 6 more trips into the void. Each time she returned with cubs in her arms, her steps growing heavier, her light dimming slightly. The human ship crew, only 5 of them, all wearing that same determined expression, worked alongside Zathor engineers to expand the sanctuary shields using human tech that shouldn't have worked, but did. On the 7th trip, Lena collapsed as soon as she crossed back into reality. The last cub, a tiny male named Kivo, was clutched to her chest, safe and whole. The medics rushed to both of them, but Lena waved them toward the cub first. Him first, she gasped. Always. Always the cubs first. Zethrak knelt beside her, this tiny alien who had walked through oblivion itself for children that weren't even her species. Why, he asked. Why would you risk everything for us? Your species only received our distress call cycles ago. You don't know us. We have no alliance, no treaty, nothing to offer you in return. Lena looked up at him with eyes that held both exhaustion and absolute certainty. Because you asked for help, she said simply. And because those are kids. Where I come from, we have a saying, it takes a village to raise a child. We just think the village should be a little bigger than one planet. She smiled, then passed out. The Zathor would spend the next 2 weeks learning how human technology worked, not through physical mechanics, but through what humans called will and stubborn refusal to accept reality's limitations. They would learn that Earth had nearly destroyed itself a dozen times before reaching the stars, and each time they chose to be better. They would learn that humans were paradoxes, fragile yet unbreakable, small yet infinite, temporary yet eternal in their impact. But in that moment, as 17 cubs played safely in the sanctuary, with Tavi refusing to leave Lena's bedside until she woke up, Commander Zethrak understood the most important lesson. The unmaking consumed everything, but humans were made of something the void couldn't comprehend. The absolute, reality-defying certainty that tomorrow could be better than today. And the willingness to walk through hell itself to make it so. They held existence itself simply by refusing to let go.